Hey guys, Upper Wednesday is going well, and today I've got a bit of a little yo-yo comparison video for you guys today. Okay, so instead of making a shutter wide angle review by itself, I decided I'm going to make a comparison with the shutter wide angle versus the shutter the normal one. And here's why. Okay, so I know, to be honest, you guys probably already know what the shutter is like, okay? I mean, it's a very standard yo-yo. It's good for grinds, it's really stable, it's really fast on the string and everything. It's just an overall really standard and good yo-yo. But I mean, the majority of you guys probably already know what the shutter is like, so I don't really feel a need to make a shutter wide angle review by itself. What I think you guys really care about is how is the shutter wide angle different from the normal shutter. In this video, that's what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so for starters, I just want to compare the specs of the two yo-yos, so just to give you guys a general view on how the two yo-yos are different. Okay, so the diameter of both of these yo-yos is identical at just 56 millimeters, which I think is a really good move on them. I don't think a bigger diameter would really be necessary. Then looking over at the width, that's where things get to be a little bit different. So on the wide angle shutter, we have a width of 48 millimeters. However, on the normal shutter, the width is only 44. So that's in the yo-yo world, that's a pretty big deal. Okay, so I'm gonna just skip over the gap width because they're basically identical. It's just millimeters of difference, so that probably just happened with the manufacturing. And then here's another specification that really surprised me, the weight. So the normal shutter weight is 67.8 grams, while the shutter wide angle is only 64 grams. That's a pretty big difference when it comes to the weight, and to be honest, that really surprised me. I mean, you'd think that a wider yo-yo would be it uses up more metal, so wouldn't it be wider? But that's not really the case here. So we've got actually a lighter yo-yo on the shutter wide angle, so just something you should know. And then from there on, the specs are just kind of boring. But yeah, those are just the specifications. I thought you guys should just get a brief overview on just the differences between the yo-yos when it comes to the math, just like the normal specifications. Okay, so now what I know you guys really want to know about, how do these yo-yos feel? How do they differ when you're playing with the yo-yo actually? Alright, so to answer that, as I already said before, the shutter is a super good yo-yo on its own. It's super stable, and it's really nice for playing. But here's where the shutter wide angle is just better than the shutter. So first of all, the shutter wide angle is much more stable, and I noticed this really with fast tricks, very extreme tricks that are really pushing the yo-yo to its limits. The shutter wide angle just didn't really get off axis as easily as the normal shutter did. So now, don't get me wrong, they're both very stable yo-yos, but the shutter wide angle is just a little bit more stable. And the same thing goes for the the power of the spin and the spin time. The shutter wide angle is just a little bit more powerful. It feels more forgiving in general when it's on the string, and I think that's a really important factor with this. It has a general more powerful and longer spin. So yeah, basically because of those two things, the stability and the power of the spin, it handles fast tricks really nicely. Another aspect that the shutter wide angle is better than the normal shutter for is whips and slats, because with this new huge gap, it's quite a bit wider. It's just better. It's for landing whips and slacks. I mean, my consistency just goes up whenever I use the shutter wide angle. With that huge width, it's just the string is guided into the gap of the yo-yo a lot more easy. Also, this yo-yo is a lot better for horizontal. So the normal shutter already was very good for horizontal, but the shutter wide angle is just better in that way, okay? Since it's wider, there's less contact points for the string to slow down the yo-yo, and so it's a lot more forgiving. You can hit your horizontal and mess up a little bit, but still have a ton more spin left over. So I really noticed that with horizontal, this yo-yo really excelled. And finally, in general, this yo-yo is just so much more reliable, okay? So when I'm playing with this, I hit my tricks, I'd say 20 to 30% more often with the shutter wide angle than the normal shutter. So that's all just due to that massive width. To be honest, grinds feel about the same with these two yo-yos. I mean, it's just the same bead blasted finish. However, finger grinds are a little bit better on the shutter wide angle though, because since it's wider, there's less metal touching your finger when you're actually doing it. But I mean, not really that many people do finger grinds nowadays, so I think both yo-yos are just fine for finger grinds. So another thing about this yo-yo that's really interesting is that I think this is definitely more geared towards competition. Okay, so with a competition, you want a yo-yo that spins very powerfully and is very forgiving, okay? Because on competition, if you mess up, you still want to have a lot of spin left in your yo-yo. And I think the shutter wide angle is just perfect for that. So I think the shutter wide angle is an excellent choice, and I think it's even more geared towards the normal shutter for competition. Okay, so another factor when choosing between the shutter wide angle and the normal shutter is the price. So the normal shutter goes for $45 on the base color. Like some colors cost a little bit more money, but for like the normal solid colors, it's $45 for a shutter. But on the shutter wide angle of the yo-yo is actually $55. So that's $10 more for the basic colors. And so I think, to be honest, it's worth it. The normal shutter on its own is such a great yo-yo for the price. Like paying $45 for a yo-yo of that quality is really not heard of in the yo-yo world. And then $55 I think is a pretty good price. I mean, the 10 extra dollars are getting you a much more forgiving yo-yo, one that's spins even more powerfully than the normal shutter, and one that's better in just about every way. So to be honest, I think $55 is definitely an appropriate price for the shutter wide angle. Okay, so finally, the question that you guys have been all waiting for, is this my new competition yo-yo? And the answer to that is no. Okay, so here's why. The shape of the shutter wide angle is very wide, but remember, I like super wide yo-yos. So it's wide, but I mean, to be honest, it's not wide enough for me. So for my style, I really like to have wide yo-yos that are super forgiving and very consistent. And to be honest, the Alice, although the shutter wide angle is really very good for increasing your consistency and being very forgiving, the Alice is even better. So since it's such an extreme shape, I prefer the Atlas. It just gives me more consistent throws and everything, and it's overall just, to me, it fits me better. However, the shutter wide angle is definitely an improvement in consistency and everything than the normal shutter. Okay, so again, with any of my reviews, I gotta knock the yo-yo just a little bit. So here's, there are a couple things I didn't really like about this yo-yo. So the first one is that, again, this is a bigger yo-yo, this is a wide yo-yo, and that might not be fit for everyone. For me personally, this is a perfect yo-yo. My tricks don't require a yo-yo that's really tiny, so I can do the intricate tech combos. But for some, since it's this wide and it's this big, it may not fit your style. If you have some really dense tech and stuff like that, it may be a little bit difficult to hit individual strings when this yo-yo is this wide. For me, personally, the wide shape of it is awesome, but keep in mind, if you have tricks that are super intricate and require a more thin design, I mean, it's the shutter wide angle. It's a wide yo-yo. Okay, so conclusion time. The shutter wide angle is a really good yo-yo, and it is much better, in my opinion, than the normal shutter. So it's more stable, it can handle more extreme tricks, it's maybe a little bit better for grinds, and overall it's just better in almost every way. The price in general I think is pretty appropriate for it, and it still has that good old shutter feel. So that is about it for this video. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. Also, if you're new here, I post videos usually on the weekends, and if you're enjoying the content, definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I definitely suggest you guys check out the shutter wide angle, the links will be down below, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.